So we're going to go ahead and bring in Daniel. Daniel, you got some stuff for us?
Evan, my man, I appreciate you. You absolutely killed it. We're going to head back to the main panel, right, guys? We got a little bit of YouTube Q&A. And before we get to that, I want to announce, and our guy Josh that went into the money machine, he officially won $511.
Hello.
Quick round of applause for Josh.
Nice.
Yeah.
Attaboy, Josh.
Some good hands.
That's strong.
Great hands from Josh. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you drop them down in the YouTube comments below. And I want to pull up a graphic for you guys with the best available players. This is from yours truly, Malik, Joe Goodberry, and Evan McPhillips. I want you guys to talk about some of the guys that have gone off the board and some of your favorites that are still on the board. Like Malik, you still got Darnell Washington. Evan, you still got DeJuan Jones. Joe, you still have Osiris Torrance. Talk me through a little bit of this graphic here.
Well, Musgrave's off the board now, too, so that one's gone.
Yep. Darnell Washington is a guy that I didn't love at 28, but I think he could potentially make sense, at 60 if the Bengals do in fact stay pat. He's a tremendous blocker. He has upside at the tight end position. He won the underwear Olympics as I called it at the NFL Combine, where everybody was moving him up their draft board, saying this guy was worth the first round pick. I didn't really see that. I also like Julius Brents as well. I could see the Bengals targeting the cornerback position. I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit because I didn't put DJ Turner on there. Right, cornerback from Michigan. I think he makes sense as well for the Cincinnati Bengals. So yeah, there's a lot of prospects to love that are still on the board that makes sense for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think with all the talent still on the board, it might be a little bit early to go running back still. I know people have been clamoring for the Bengals to address that, and but we'll see.
Yeah, my top guy here is Tommy Adebawore out of Northwestern. If you want to go heavy on the defensive line and add to the pass rush, I think he's a guy that's going to kick inside and play defensive tackle at the next level. Yeah. And he is an absolute freak with long arms, crazy quickness. He is inconsistent. That's why he's still here. Or else, guys like that typically get drafted much higher. But his flashes are ridiculous. He'll go from one gap, jump right over the guard, and almost face over the center in a flash and just beat these guys in no time. He really gave Cody Malk a lot of trouble at the Senior Bowl. I've got him high if they want to continue with the defensive line. Actually got a lot of trenches guys on my list. I'm willing to go heavy on trenches and fix that or get it secured for the future. If they want to go DeJuan Jones, if Osiris Torrance is still there, they don't have a need at guard right now. But you never know what your needs are going to be in January, right? Yeah. We didn't know they were going to need a guard going into Kansas City that last week, and it would have been nice to have a second-round pick coming off the bench. But I've got a lot of corners as well, and we should probably mention now that the tight end run is happening. I think Tucker Kraft out of South Dakota is probably the next guy if it's not Darnell Washington, and then Zach Charbonnet, the running back out of UCLA, I think could be high on their board at 60.
DeJuan Jones, my understanding is recently he weighed 393 pounds. So he's a couple of biscuits away from 400. and so, I mean, he got himself down to about 370 or a little bit below, or right around that 370 mark, but blew up quickly. And that's the concern with him. It's like, can he control his weight? Is he going to be at 400 pounds yo-yoing back and forth, every off season? I mean, this is a kid that accomplished basketball player. He had an NCAA Division I basketball scholarship opportunities coming out of high school. I mean, he's got footwork, but I mean, he's a wild card in that regard. But I think Cam Smith. I think the corner. I think is something they're going to be looking at. I think it's going to be the reverse of what I was talking about on going into the first two rounds. I thought it might be corner, edge rush. Well, they went edge rush. Might just reverse it and go corner in that second round potentially for the same reason we talked about before. All these quarterbacks in the AFC, you got to have cover guys, you got to have hedge guys. So it would not shock me if there are only 15 guys projected would go in the first 2 days. Only 4 went in day one, so there should be a run on corners coming here pretty quick.
All right, we got a guy in the house, Dave. Logan Wilson is in the house at the party. You want to be here for Logan Wilson, who's in the VIP section right now.
But man,
you know what? Even if you're not here, you've still got a chance with the hashtag Wilson55 to win again. Hello, and thanks for being here. So good to have you here. It's always good to start talking football here as we are on draft night.
And, Brad, that is a football player. That is a 3-down football player right there, Logan Wilson. Double fives, baby.
Nice to have you in, Logan.
All right, so I want to get to some more of these questions here from our audience
Daniel.
now. Let's go to one from Huday55. Great question. Who would you guys rather take? And I'm going to start this off with Joe Goodberry. A tight end or a running back with this next pick?
I think the running back class is much deeper at this point. We've only had 2 guys go. They went early. I think if you wanted to bet on a guy being there in rounds 2, 3, 4, I think you can still find a back that can come in and help. Maybe it's a pass protection back, guy that can replace Samaje Perine, maybe a Roshan Johnson in round 3. At this rate, I think you're okay betting on that class still being strong in the next round or so. I think tight end's starting to drop off. If it's not Darnell Washington or Tucker Kraft, I don't think I'd take one until the 4th, 5th round. You're getting a role player, maybe at best a tight end too, like a Davis Allen out of Clemson. I don't like the chances there. If one of the top 2 remaining tight ends are available at 60, I would go that way. I think they'd be pretty high on the board, so you're not reaching too far.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Joe there. I definitely think that the tight end is a position where it's slim. It's starting to get slim pickings now. You know, if a guy like Darnell Washington is staring you down in the face, I think it's something you have to seriously consider. Tucker Kraft is my draft darling, a guy that I feel very, very comfortable with. I feel like he's kind of flying under the radar a little bit because he didn't go to a bigger school. But this guy has all the tools that you want. He can stretch the field vertically. He's a willing blocker. I won't say he's an exceptional blocker, but he's a willing blocker. And you know, I definitely think he would help solve the tight end position need for sure.
Well, the Bengals participated in the position that was drafted the most in the first round, edge rush. 7 guys went off the board. So now maybe it's time to participate in the tight end run that's being made because only 1 tight end went off the board in that first day. But, you know, interesting. The Bengals are so wide receiver centric. Perine had more receiving yards than Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst gets a big deal in the Carolina Panthers at the tight end position, and Samaje Perine had more receiving yards than Hayden Hurst did. And out of the tight end position, the Bengals only got 2 touchdowns last year. They get 9 out of the running back position. They get 25 out of the wide receiver position. Top 4 wideouts, over 3,000 yards. The top 4 tight ends, just over 500 yards. Top 4 running backs, over 700 yards receiving. So it's wide receiver centric or a check down to the running back. I mean, that's the Bengals passing attack. So honestly, I'd stay away from both. I'd go, you know, hopefully there's a corner there that they have rated higher than the tight ends that are left and the running backs that, you know, are available as well. And they go that corner position potentially.
Evan, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think Dave made a good point there. There's a little bit of question there about positional value with especially so many good corners still sitting on the board. That run hasn't quite happened yet, but I named 3-4 guys that I feel really comfortable and would be happy with as a corner. If you're talking about just tight end versus running back, I would definitely like to address that position if Joe said if there's still 1 or 2 of the top guys left, but you don't want to force yourself to reach on that pick, right? You don't want to lose that surplus value that you get. You don't want to start just trying to say we know better than everyone else because part of the draft is wanting to get your guy, but also knowing where to get them because then you can get yourself the best value at each spot, right? I think that could be at running back if maybe there's a guy like a Zach Charbonnet there, but we talked about how deep this class is, man. There's guys out there like Roshan Johnson. I'm a big fan of Tank Bixby. He averaged over 4 yards after contact, and he was still one of the most elusive backs out there. His actually elusive rating was 18th out of 200 backs, despite being a thicker guy. He's a little bit of a question mark as a pass catcher, but these are just kind of the guys that you can get a Kendre Miller, a Tajay Spears maybe, Dwayne McBride, even a little bit later. Like these are guys that you can get and feel confident about in the 3rd round, in the 4th round. So I would definitely agree with the tight end crowd that if the value is there, then I would like to see them go that way, counter to running back. But I really feel like the way the board is falling with positional value, that corner is really going to be staring them in the face, and they're going to have to pass on somebody good if they want to go another route.
Evan, I want to keep this on you really quickly. And some of the, you know, the War Room shows, you raved about these corners. Julius Brents just went off the board. But there's a question from one of our subscribers, Jason Love, said, anybody want Turner DB from Michigan? Can you tell the audience a little bit about Turner?
Absolutely. So with DJ Turner, you got a guy who, even when he's beat, he's not beat because he has that special athleticism. He ended up with a 4.26 40, 99th percentile, demonstrates that long speed, and he has a 131-inch broad jump, 91st percentile, demonstrating that athleticism. This guy is fluid. He's got oily hips. I mean, he can flip his hips at a moment's notice whenever he needs to, smooth in and out of his transitions. one of the big issues with him would definitely be that he struggles against a little bit of the bigger receivers, which makes sense. He's a little bit of an undersized guy. You're talking about someone who's 5'11", 178, could definitely do with putting on a few pounds. But at the same time, you get a guy who's has the high-end traits that you want in terms of athleticism, can help to make up for a little bit of the undersized aspect. And, we know the Bengals were in on Emmanuel Forbes. So if they feel comfortable with the tape and with what you put out as an athlete, then they will take that chance on you. Just a little bit more on the weaknesses with him. We talked about struggling to seed ground to bigger wide receivers at times. Isn't always very aggressive at the catch point, maybe being a little bit smaller of a guy, but that's not to say that he wasn't productive in his own right in breakups. He had 14 forced incompletions, which ranked tied 16th among cornerbacks. So he does have that ball production, if not the interceptions. And he was one of those guys who we talked about a little bit earlier about how there's two ways to be fast, whether you're reacting or you're anticipating, reacting with your athleticism or anticipating with your mind and your recognition. He is more reactive with his speed right now. But I think that's something that a guy like Lou Anarumo, who's worked so well with so many defensive backs and gotten the most out of them, could really help bring him along in that respect to where you might see this guy breaking up balls even faster and then getting some of those interceptions that maybe he lacked in college. So big fan of DJ Turner, would be happy with him as well in place of a guy like a Julius Brents.
I saw Joe and Malik kind of nodding their heads, when you were talking about DJ Turner. Any of you guys want to add on to what Evan was saying about Turner?
Only that he is not just underweight, his length and wingspan is really an issue, probably as low as you can probably accept for a boundary corner. Typically those type of guys are kicked inside, but I do like him, and the speed is there. I think that's why, though, he doesn't get his hand on some of those balls at the catch point.
I think in the teammates that had success at the NFL level, recoverability speed, like you were talking about, you might get beaten, but recoverability speed. He's got blazing speed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you, Lou Anarumo and every defensive backfield coach, every coordinator would love to have guys, you can coach them up, teach better coverage techniques and all that. But if you've got recoverability speed, you've got something that is a weapon in the back pocket for sure.
So we've got a question here from Dan the Man, one of our loyal subscribers. He said, Lap and Joe. I'm going to start off with Lap. How high up on the Bengals board is Cody Mock, the offensive lineman? How high up on the Bengals board do you think he is?
I have no idea. I've not seen the Bengals board. The Bengals do not allow their board to be reviewed by anybody other than internal organizational people. But I do know, or I have the feeling, I should say, that Cody Mock is a Frank Pollock kind of guy. Cody Mock is one of those. He's mature. He's a 5-year guy. He's very physical. He's got some position versatility to him. I think the Bengals like him now at 60. I don't think they like him at 60, but I think they like him.
Yeah, I don't think they want to take a guy that's probably an interior offensive lineman. Now, he's got 5-tool versatility, right? He can play probably any position. I think a lot of teams even are considering him as a center.
Yeah,
I think he scored the highest of all offensive linemen in the mental aptitude test. So I think he's got a good chance to go in the second round. I just don't know if it's for the Bengals. But you're right, glass eater. It looks like he's already eaten too much glass. He doesn't have front teeth.
Exactly. I mean, he doesn't even need a mouth guard anymore. Not much left there.
So I want to ask you guys a question here from Grant Nelson. Why do you guys think Cam Smith, the corner, why do you think he is sliding so far right now? And what's your thoughts on Cam Smith?
He actually started this process in January, about 17th on the consensus board. Lately, at the end, when everyone shut their boards down on the final week, he was 46th. So I don't know if we're ready to say yet that he is sliding. I think we're in his range right now. Like Brian Branch of Alabama just went off the board. I think we'll start to see
that was my guy too.
Yeah, and right after Julius Brents too. So I do think this is the time now we'll see some of these corners come off. I expect Kaylee Ringo to come off here eventually too. So I think Cam Smith, if anything. Again, we've got a lot of guys here that are on the smaller side. So how are these teams going to value these players? We saw some teams really, they don't want the small corners out there. They want to go out there against these bigger receivers. But as the receivers are getting smaller, I think it's okay to take some of these smaller corners. So I think Cam Smith will be lucky if he's there at 46 or at 60, but we're at 46 now.
Right. I mean, if Cam Smith is there, I wouldn't hesitate long putting the pick in, man. I'd go there big time.
Yeah. So there's somebody on the board right now, Zach Charbonnet, and I want to get you guys' thoughts. I want to go to Malik here. Zach Charbonnet, running back from UCLA. Tony Rose said, if Charbonnet is there, they'll take him. What's your thoughts on Zach Charbonnet?
I love Zach Charbonnet. I love his film. I think he's physical. I think that he's a physical runner. I think he would, add definitely to the running back room. And it's a piece that the Cincinnati Bengals are certainly missing. I think that his blocking in the passing game is definitely underrated as well. I don't know if they go Zach Charbonnet at 60 though. And I know that is everybody's sort of favorite running back, in this realm. I don't know if the Bengals do that because I think the way the board is falling, you're going to have your choice of the litter. You're going to have defensive backs to choose from. You're going to have, a potential tight end to choose from. What do you do if Darnell Washington's sitting on the board, or if a Cam Smith is sitting on the board? Do you really pass up on those guys for a Zach Charbonnet? That has nothing to do with them not liking the guy. I just think that it makes a lot of sense.
So you're good, Dave. You're good.
A lot of times in the draft, it's really it's the luck of what the team's needs are, the order in which those teams are stacked with the needs. Doesn't mean you're not a good football player. If you slide out of the first round, if you were projected to go at the end of the first round, it's just that it just didn't stack up right for you. And then the other biggest thing is when you do get drafted, man, you got to be drafted by the right team that can develop you. You got to have a good coaching staff. You have to fit their system. You can't put a square peg in a round hole. I mean, it's not science as such, but there's something to it. It's not just blindfold throwing darts at a dartboard either. I mean, there's definitely a lot to it. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I still believe as of right now, I'd be surprised if they don't go corner.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ringo and Cam Smith are probably pretty high in that board. But to answer the question on Charbonnet, I think he probably is the consensus number 3 back, but it's a non-premium position, so we don't expect him to go in the top 45 picks or so. So now we're in the range of Charbonnet. I think he's got every tool except for the long speed. He's an elusive runner. He's probably the second best inside gap scheme runner behind Bijan Robinson. So I think he's a very heady, very smart running back in terms of following his tracks, being on the correct path, and manipulating linebackers to get him to overrun. He presses the hole, cuts behind him. He really makes his offensive line look really good. But it is a really good offensive line, too. So that's some of the thing. Do the Bengals want to get these teams out of cover two shells? You probably want a guy with a little bit more speed, I think. So maybe he's not their guy.
I like, though, the fact that you're talking about there's nothing better than a running back that presses it. Press the hole, man. Get right up on the backs of the offensive linemen and then make your cut. Show as much patience as you possibly can. Man, that's a great trait to have. There's no doubt.
He's got that.
Evan, I know you're nodding your head and you're excited about Zach Charbonnet. Talk to us a little bit about him.
I am. Like definitely. Joe mentioned it a little bit with positional value and what might be facing you. If there's not a run on corners here, then he might not be the pick because of need, because of positional value. But if he ends up sitting there as the best player, looking them in the face, I love it, because what are two of the main ways that running backs can create yards outside of what's blocked for them, outside of the offense? And that's running through contact, breaking tackles, and being elusive, right? And he was, out of 200 running backs, 17th in yards after contact with 4.15 per attempt, elusive rating. He doesn't have that breakaway speed. He's not one of those speedy jump cut guys, but this guy still finds a way to break tackles, alter tackling angles, get guys out of position, and then he has exceptional contact balance where he can make it through that contact if they do make it to him. He's got a variety of weapons with high steps and dead legs and stiff arms that he breaks tackles in a different way than a guy like an Alvin Kamara would. So I feel like he's a very complete back in that sense, has soft hands, probably still has a little bit of ways to go in terms of running more complex routes. But at the same time, if he can take what Samaje Perine was getting last year and then make these guys miss, get these yards after contact, man, that adds so much value to a Bengals offense that's really operating a lot underneath recently.
So I want to go to one more question really quickly. I just want to get Dave Lapham's opinion. DeJuan Jones, offensive lineman. I just want to get your opinion. What's your thoughts on him as a prospect?
Oh, I think he's got he's got some traits. He's a behemoth. He's a dinosaur. I mean, the guy is 6'8", but like I said earlier, the rumors are that his weight's up over 390, and for you to yo-yo your weight like that is a little bit of an issue. I mean, when you're hovering around 400 pounds, and this is when you should be disciplining yourself, making sure that you're putting your best foot forward. This is like the biggest job interview of your life. So you want to make sure that you're not showing bad habits. And if he's going to be 400 pounds in this situation, people are going to wonder, What's it going to be like in the offseason of his rookie year or second year? What's he going to come back at OTAs, mini camps? Will he be 4'10", 4'15"? Who knows? I mean, so that's the biggest wild card on him, and it's unfortunate because the guy can play. I mean, he's got unbelievably strong hands, big old vice grip hands. His wingspan is like a pterodactyl. I mean, he's just one massive human being. And like I said, I mean, the guy had scholarship opportunities in high school, Division I college basketball player. So he's not a stiff. You know, I mean, he's got some footwork to him. Now, does he change direction well enough? Not at 390, you know, and that's an issue for him anyway. So, yeah, but it's at this point it's buyer beware right now with him. And as far as Charbonneau and some of the when we talk about lack of breakaway speed, a running back out of Nebraska by the name of Rex Burkhead, who can't beat some offensive linemen in 40s, is still playing in the National Football League.
4.73.
I mean, yeah, it's unbelievable.
So
and he's still playing running back in the National Football League. Guys find ways, man.
So that does it for our first segment of answering your guys' questions. We appreciate every question. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to be back in about 20 minutes with a Logan Wilson interview. So make sure you guys stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this break.
Join our team. First Star Logistics provides its employees the tools and support they need for a successful career. With the highest salary in the industry, plus uncapped commission and a flexible career path.